Hello, and welcome to your briefing for the Continuum of Care Funded Voucher Program. My name is Joan Farkas, and I am the Director of Housing for Collaborative Support Programs and Community Enterprises Corporation. I'm going to be explaining to you how this program works, and before you leave today, you will receive a voucher, the paperwork that you need to give to a landlord when you find an apartment, a copy of a briefing book that goes over all the information we talk about today, and also an estimate of what you will be paying for your portion of the rent, and also the amount that you're allowed to spend on an apartment in the area that you'll be looking for an apartment. You're going to receive those after the video because they are individualized based on income and based on the area that you live in. So what I'm basically going to do is explain how the program works, point out what the forms look like to you, and go over some of the rules that allowed you to both qualify for this voucher and also the things that you need to do to make sure that you keep this voucher. So first, I want to congratulate you because you're about to find housing, and I know for some of you that's been a very long wait. We're really excited to be able to help you with that, and I want you to know that both myself and the individuals that brought you here to be able to hear this video are very much available to you to help you in the search and in this journey. So feel free to contact us at any time. At the end of this video, I'm going to do a close-up of my business card so that you have all my contact information so that you can call me, email me, or fax me with any questions that you may have. To begin with, the voucher that you have is considered a Continuum of Care funded voucher, which is the old Shelter Plus Care program. It's different than a Section 8 voucher in a couple of ways. The first is that it has to be used where it is issued to you. So for example, if you're watching this in Newark, you have to use the voucher in Essex County. You cannot transfer outside of the state or outside of that county. That's probably the biggest disadvantage that people see. It has a lot of advantages, however. The biggest one being that you will not pay more than 30% of your income towards the rent at any time. In a traditional Section 8 program, you can pay more than that amount, and that will not happen with this. When you leave today, the estimate that I'm giving you will be that 30% of your income, and that is the highest amount that you would ever have to pay on this program unless your income goes up. Another advantage to this program is that it comes with access to services, which means myself and the people that brought you here today are available to you to help you find housing and to help you keep housing. You will probably find as time goes on that that is an extremely valuable service to have. The third advantage to this type of voucher is that we can pay for a security deposit for you if you have no other means. A landlord is allowed to charge you up to a month and a half of a full contract rent in order to secure an apartment for you when you first move in. Under this program, if you have no other way of paying that amount, you or your case manager can ask us for assistance and the program is able to do it. Okay, so that's the basic differences between this and a traditional Section 8 voucher. One of the forms that you'll receive today is going to be your housing choice voucher. On that voucher, you'll see a couple of things. It's going to have a unit size or how many bedrooms apartment you can look for. Since most of you are individuals, you would be receiving 1-bedroom vouchers. It's going to have a date very close to or on today's date, which is the date that your voucher was issued. There's going to be a second date that's about 60 days from today. That is your search time. You're allowed to look for 60 days to find an apartment on the open market. If you find that you are having trouble towards the end of the 60 days, you can have an extension. We give extensions in 30-day increments, and we will give you those extensions as long as you ask for them in writing. The other form that you're going to receive today is called a request for tenancy approval form. That form is the form that you will give to the landlord when you find an apartment, and they need to fill that out completely and get it back to me. It asks for a little bit of information, and I'm going to explain to you what that is. The request for tenancy approval form will ask for the address of the apartment. It'll ask for the date that the landlord wants to start your lease. It'll ask for how much rent they're looking to charge for your apartment, and it will also have to list all of the utilities that are in the apartment, what type they are, and who pays for them. For example, if you have to pay for heat in your apartment, they need to tell us, is it electric heat or is it gas heat? The reason for that is there are different financial figures that are connected to that, and those are things that will go against your rent amount. When we receive that form back, there's a couple of things that will trigger. One is that I will be able to contact our inspector to go out and inspect the apartment and make sure that it is a safe and decent place for you to live. Right now, our inspectors can do inspections in person, or they can do them virtually over the internet, or a Skype type program similar to how you're seeing this video. Neither you nor the landlord need to be overly anxious regarding the inspection. If it's a legal apartment, everything's working in it. There's no insect infestation. There's no rodent infestation. Nothing's broken. It will pass the inspection. For the most part, as long as it is a legal apartment recognized by the municipality where it is located, it'll pass our inspection. You really would not want to live in an apartment that cannot pass our inspection. So that's why we go in and we inspect it prior to your moving in. The other thing that the request for tenancy approval form does is it gives me all the information that I need to calculate your actual rent. When you leave today, you get an estimate, and it's based solely on your income. We understand that if you have to pay some out-of-pocket utilities, that is going to lessen the amount of income that you have to spend. For that reason, the program does make allowances to reduce tenant rent when they have to pay any utilities out of pocket. I like to caution people, though, that the utility allowance is not the same as your utility bill, and they may not match. So you want to make sure that whatever apartment you find has as many utilities in it as possible. That will make it less expensive for you overall, and also makes it much easier to budget your money. So in summary, today you're going to be receiving a voucher and a request for tenancy approval form. From the moment that you leave today till the minute that you find something that you're satisfied with living in, you will be able to search for and find an apartment. When you find that apartment, you will give the request for tenancy approval form to the landlord, who will complete it and return it to me. They can fax it, they can email it, or they can snail mail it. And at the end of this video, you will have my contact information that will let you know what it is, that will let them know how to get those things back to me. And you will also have a booklet that goes over all the information that we're talking about today, and my contact information is in there as well. One of the other things that they want me to do in terms of a briefing for you for your voucher is explain to you the rules behind the program, which are both why you were able to qualify and are here to receive the voucher, and also what you would need to do going forward to make sure you hold on to the voucher. The idea is that if we give you all the rules up front, it's much easier to follow them. There should be no surprises. And most of the rules are pretty straightforward. If you've ever had any kind of if you've ever applied for any kind of benefit program, they're pretty standard. A lot of them require the same things. So to begin with, the first thing that you would need to do, and you're going to do this annually, you've already done, you need to sign an authorization for release of information form, and also supply all the information that we need in order to qualify you for the voucher and to keep you qualified for the voucher. So initially you gave us income, you gave us proof of disability, proof of chronically homelessness, so on and so forth. Going forward, the only thing you're going to need to do is to sign the authorization and supply up-to-date income information. And we will ask for that annually. We start mailing out the request about 90 days before your lease and your contract would renew. Number two, we need you to provide complete information to the program. That's kind of a no-brainer. But what you want to keep in mind is if anything changes for you, you want to contact me whatever those changes are. Some may affect your rent and affect your voucher, some may not. But it makes the most sense to just let me know. And when I get that for you, I will let you know if there's anything more that you need to do or if there'll be any changes in your rental amounts. Number 3, we need you to disclose your Social Security number and allow us to verify it. Should you end up with any additional people on your voucher, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, we would need their Social Security numbers as well. Number 4, I told you that we inspect your apartment before you move in. We also continue to inspect it annually to make sure it's being kept in a decent manner by both the landlord and by you. If there is something that you have done that causes your unit to fail inspection, we will ask you to make that repair. What happens frequently and this is why we suggest you keep the utilities in the rent, is when people are responsible for paying for a particular utility and they don't pay for it, it gets turned off. That would automatically cause your apartment to fail inspection, and then we're going to ask you to get that bill turned on immediately. Most other damages end up being landlord responsibilities. You've got a plumbing issue, your heat doesn't work. You're not going to be held responsible for that. We are going to ask your landlord to fix it for you. Number 5, as I said, you're going to have to let us inspect your apartment. We're going to inspect it the first time before you move in, and then we're going to inspect it on an annual basis moving forward. Just like about 90 days before your renewal, we're going to ask for your income information. We're also going to ask for your time to set up an inspection with our inspector around about the same time. Number 6, you need to let us know, and you also need to let your landlord know if you want to move. You need to do that in writing. It needs to be done at least 60 days ahead of time if you want to transfer the voucher. This is something people always forget because you usually don't move until like a year or 2 down the road. It'll be in the booklet that you receive, and just call me. I can walk you through the process. It's really not that hard. Number 7, we need you to give a copy of any eviction notice that you would receive. Especially if you think that it was unfair, we can help advocate for you with your landlord. Also, if there is something going on that would be a violation of your lease, we can help work with you to figure out how you can stop doing that. Number 8, the only people that can live in your apartment are you and any people that you have already certified to be on your voucher. It's your home and you are allowed to have guests, but you should not have any guests for longer than a 30-day period in a year. Number 9, you need to let us know immediately if you give birth, if you adopt, or if you regain custody of a minor child. That individual can be added on automatically to your voucher and immediately be put as part of your household if they are a minor child that you are legally responsible for. Anybody else that you might want to add on to your household, we have to give you permission. The way that works is that I would need the same sort of documents that I received from you in order to qualify you. So if that circumstance should happen, give me a call, give your case managers a call. Again, we can walk you through the process. Number 10, just like you need to tell us if you want anyone to move in, you need to tell us if anybody leaves. That can affect how large your voucher is. It also can affect how much you're paying in rent if that individual had income. So you want to make sure that you let us know this information right away. And number 11, if you're going to be absent from the unit yourself and it's going to be empty, or just your children are going, just your adult children or a partner are going to be in that, you need to let us know right away. This includes if you go into the hospital, if you have a short-term rehab or a short-term incarceration. We're not going to necessarily terminate your voucher, but we do need to know why the apartment is empty. The next list are things that you are not allowed to do, and that if you were to do, they could jeopardize your being able to keep your voucher. The first is, again, kind of obvious. You can't have any serious or repeated violations of your lease. This, again, may be the most common thing that people do that could be seen as a lease violation is they don't pay their portion of the rent. Please make sure you pay your portion of the rent to the landlord each month by check or money order. The subsidy that we're responsible for will be paid by a different check. You're never responsible for that, but you must make sure that you always pay your portion of the rent. Number 2, you can't sublease or subrent any part of your apartment to anyone else. That would be a pretty serious offense. That's considered fraud. Number 3, you also cannot assign the lease or transfer the unit. And that basically means you cannot keep renewing everything as if you live there and meanwhile you're someplace else and your friend or your sister or your mother or somebody else is living in that unit for you. That again would be considered fraud. Number 4, you can't own the apartment building or own an apartment and collect rental subsidy on it. Number 5, you cannot commit fraud or any other corrupt or criminal act in connection with the program. Fraud, by HUD's definition, is something as simple as not reporting income when you get additional income. So just be aware that it's taken very seriously by the funding source, and so we have to act on it if we hear that there's any kind of discrepancy. Number 6, you cannot engage in drug-related criminal activity or violent criminal activity, and no guest or member of your household can either. The problem with this situation also is that because we're talking about your voucher in an administrative act, we really only need a police report to have to move towards terminating your voucher, as opposed to a court of law where you would have the opportunity to be innocent until proven guilty. Okay, so we just say be very careful who you let in your home, even the people that you care about. If you know that they have some active drug use, if they're still involved in gangs, don't allow them to stay in your apartment and just keep yourself safe. Number 7, you can't receive this type of subsidy at the same time that you're receiving any other subsidy that would be considered tenant-based. So if you have some sort of emergency assistance that you're receiving right now, that terminates when this stops. That ends when this stops. So what happens if, heaven forbid, you have a problem and you break some of the rules? You either don't do some of what you're supposed to do, or you do some of the things you're not supposed to do. Well, the first thing that you should know is that your voucher doesn't immediately stop. I can't call you up and say, hey, not paying your rent tomorrow. That's not the way that this process works. Our goal is to keep you housed. So the first thing that would happen would be you would get a letter that is a warning, and it's going to simply say that, warning, you're breaking some of the voucher rules. This is the rule we think you broke. Please don't do that. If you stop whatever the behavior is and go back to, following the rules of the program, that's where it ends. If we get another report of the same or similar actions, you would get another letter which says initial decision to terminate your voucher. In that letter, it's going to again say, we need to terminate your voucher because you're breaking these rules. And it's going to give you an opportunity to appeal. The way that you would file for an appeal is within 10 days from the date of that letter. You are going to write a letter to us requesting an appeal. The address will be in the letter you receive. The address is also in the booklet that you are receiving today. And, if you're really confused, you can call and we will tell you that you need to send a request in writing, and we'll tell you where to send it. Once that request is received, there will be a hearing scheduled, and it'll be at our office in Freehold, New Jersey. You will be able to come with an advocate of your choice, and you and I are going to meet with the CEO of Community Enterprises Corporation, who is our hearing officer and is not involved in any of the normal day-to-day decisions with regard to vouchers. What happens there is just, I'm going to say, this is what we believe happened in terms of the voucher, and this is the information that was supplied by the landlord or whoever gave us the documentation that you were erring in maintaining your voucher in your apartment. You will have the opportunity to speak and present your case, and you're either going to explain that you weren't doing it and any proof you have that you weren't doing it, or you're going to explain, I did it, but this is what's different going forward. And then the hearing officer will hear both sides and will come up with a final decision, and will forward that decision to you in writing. I want to say that should you ever receive that letter, please, 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 please file for the appeal. Request the hearing. And I say that because this is a program for people who have been homeless. We're not looking to make you homeless again. And it's very likely that you will have the decision to terminate your voucher overturned. If you continue to engage in the same behavior and you're having multiple hearings, of course, at some point you could be terminated. But on your first shot, absolutely try to appeal, even if you're doing the thing, because there's a very good chance that you will not be have your voucher terminated. That is the majority of my presentation. So hopefully that was relatively short and sweet. I am going to, again, have a close-up of my business card. This is my contact information. There's a phone number, which is my direct line, which is being forwarded at this time while the office is closed and we're working remotely. There is an email address on there. There's a fax address. There is a mailing address. You can contact me by whatever means are easiest for you should you have any questions after this presentation. I want to thank you again for being here. And again, the workers that brought you to be able to see this video will now present your paperwork to you, and they'll be able to show you the figures in terms of how much you have to spend for your apartment and also how much we believe that your portion of the rent is going to be. Thanks again, and good luck.